Welcome to the Story Apothecary, a podcast filled with healing and medicinal stories. My name is Nana Tomova, and I'm a traditional storyteller and a pharmacist, and stories are medicines which I dispense. In this podcast, you'll find my prescriptions of stories for the body, mind, heart, soul, and for the earth. So I invite you to join me as we enter the healing world of stories together. Hello and welcome. I'm sitting here during a very autumnal day where the pear tree in the garden has been shaken by the winds and has lost most of its leaves, and she stands here naked. And the house has been shaken by the winds and drummed upon by the rains for now 3 days. The water in the river is rising, and it's been like that all throughout the east side of the UK. So I hope that you're safe and well if you're listening to this. I was meant to be telling stories at a autumnal local festival where they are known for their dark night skies, and I was looking forward to telling celestial stories, but sadly, due to the weather, it was cancelled. And so I decided to bring one of the stories here. It is a story I haven't told before, but I've been carrying it with me in my head, in my heart for the past couple of weeks, being with it, telling it to myself, walking with it. And it is sad if it doesn't get a chance to be told. It is a Saami myth. It is from a wonderful book called The Sun Maiden and the Crescent Moon. It's a collection of Siberian folk tales by an author called James Riordan. The Saami people live at the very north of Europe, in parts of Norway and Sweden and Finland, in parts of Russia. And I believe there are a total of 9 Saami languages which people speak, depending on their location and where they live. And this story really spoke to me, seeing that I'm in northern lands now, and a lot of the mythology of the country I was born, although it used to be cold and we have some snowy stories, well, it's a different mythology. It comes from the cult of the sun, and so there are many sun stories and many summer stories. Most of them have seasons, and so they cannot be told at this time of year. There are rules about which stories and which songs you have to sing at which part of the year. And so many of the sun stories, they don't sit well at this time. But stories from the northern lands of Siberia, well, I can feel this here sometimes. As I climb upon the mountains or walk in the crispy snow or stay among the reindeer herds that are quite close to me, I can sometimes feel the winds of the subarctic climate that is here in the winter. And a couple of years ago, I made the choice to only tell European stories. And I have mainly stuck to this choice. And that has come from the realization that I only know Europe that well. I'm not that well travelled. And what I don't want to do is take a story from a culture that is not familiar to me and twist it out of shape. Not from maliciousness, but from ignorance. an ignorance that I'm not aware of. And so I mainly tell European stories, largely Bulgarian stories, because I know that culture so well. I am from it, and I know I can't get it wrong. And so I'm a bit nervous telling a story of the Saami people, especially since they've been persecuted in the past. And so I spent a whole day doing research on their culture, on their clothes, on their language, on their history. I spend a few hours listening to how words are pronounced so I can get the name right. Looking at the cultural appropriation that still happens and what I can do to try and avoid it. So I hope I do this story justice. It feels right to my body when I tell it, and so that is a good sign. It is a beautiful story, and I am sure you will enjoy it. Here is the daughter of the moon and the son of the sun. All throughout the day, the sun, he rides through the sky on his golden sledge. It looks differently at different times of the day. At dawn, his golden sledge is pulled by polar bear. Great, big, strong. At midday, it is pulled by buck reindeer. And at dusk, when the sky is pink and vivid and orange, his golden sledge is pulled by the doe reindeer. The sun is very busy. He has many chores that he must attend to, many tasks that he must do. He must grant life to all that lives, the plants, the animals, the peoples. He nourishes the green moss and the trees. He gives light. He gives strength to the beasts, to the creatures, to the big ones and the little ones, to the birds, the winged ones, and the Saami people, who love the sun dearly, so that they may grow strong, that they may carry on living, that they may pass their skills, their gifts to their children. It is a tiring job being the sun. He gets weary and tired towards the end of the day, and towards twilight, he sings down towards the sea. He plunges in the waters of the ocean like a gentle lullaby. He wishes to rest and sleep, to recuperate and regain his strength again for another day ahead where he will reign upon the heavens. But one evening, after a hard day's work, doe reindeer drew down the sun, down towards his ocean, where he was looking forward to resting his body, while the sun's handsome son, Pavelke, spoke up. "Father," Pavelke said, "it is time for me to marry. I am old enough and I wish to find a bride." The son looked up. "Have you chosen a bride?" he asked Pavelke. He was weary and tired and sleepy. "I've tried," said his son, "but none of the earthly brides are suitable. I gave them my golden boots to try, but not a single one could wear them. Their feet, so heavy. They are so clumsy. They cannot follow me up into the sky, so I have not been able to choose a maid to marry." "Ah, you have sought wrongly," declared the sun, as he yawned and stretched, lying upon the ocean. Tomorrow, he said, I shall speak with the moon. The moon has a daughter. She is poorer than us, the moon, but the daughter does dwell upon the heavens. I think she will make you a worthy bride. And so it was. Both went to sleep. The sun closed his eyes, and his son Pavelke was excited about the day that would unfold. The following morning, the sun rose early, just as dawn was approaching. His neighbour, the moon in her silvery glow, was about to take her rest from her shift upon the heavens. Tell me, my pale companion, said the sun, is it not true that you have a daughter? I have found a worthy husband for her. She is indeed fortunate, very fortunate, for her worthy husband is none other than my own son, Pavelke. The moon grew dim and pale, even paler than she had already been. Oh, my child is still young, said the moon. When I hold her close to me, I hardly notice she is there. She's so light. She's so small. A puff of wind would take her away. How can such a mite, such a small being, marry your son? It matters not, replied the sun. My tent is spacious and bountiful. She will be nourished well. She will be taken care of. She will grow strong. You'll see. Come, bring her to my son. No, cried the moon in response. She swiftly drew a white cloud upon her child to keep her safe. Your Pavelke will scorch her delicate skin. No. What is more, said the moon, she was already promised to Ninus, the northern lights. There he is, she said. He is walking proudly across the ocean down below. That's it, is it? Said the sun. You reject my son. My son with his golden boots, my son that reigns upon the heavens, for some miserable coloured stripes? Do not forget. My humble companion, he said in a threatening voice, it is I who give life to all things. I am the all-powerful one, said the sun. The moon nodded. Your power, neighbour, she said, is but half the power that there is. When dusk comes, your strength, your light resides into the night, and further dark. And the long winters, where is your power then? No, it is Ninus. Ninus shines on us winter too. His glow, his dancing lights of orange and pink and green that dance across like a curtain throughout the nights, piercing the gloom of the darkness with his cheerful rays. It is he who has power too. But the sun was angry. I will wed my son to your daughter. I promise you that. And he blazed. The sun was angry, and with his temper thunder rolled across the heavens. The wind howled, the waves towered white with rage across the ocean, and the mountains shook with dread. The herds of reindeer huddled close, and the Saami tribes, they trembled in corners of their summer shelters. It is frightening when the sun is angry. The moon, she scurried away into the darkness of the night. I must keep my child safe, she said. I must keep my daughter safe from the sun's angry gaze, from his son Pavelke. She looked across the heavens. She wondered what to do. She tried to hatch a plan, and looking down from the skies, she saw a small island in the middle of a lake. And on that island lived a man and his wife. They were in the winter of their years, Just the two of them. But they were happy. They had a twinkle in their eyes. It felt right to the moon. Yes, she said, that old pair. They'll do. I'll entrust them with my daughter. I know she'll be safe there. With time, Sun grew tired of his ranting, and so the thunder settled. The wail of the wind died down. The waves settled back into the sea. It became quiet and still. And it was about this time of day that the wife and her husband went into the forest to strip silver birch bark to make sandals. They were surprised to hear a tiny voice crying above their heads like a silver bell. Niekir! Niekir, here I am! Here I am! And as they looked up to where the voice was coming from, there on a branch of a fir tree, they saw a cradle made of silver, rocking back and forwards like a lullaby. The old man reached up to bring down the cradle, and he saw a child lying there. She was like any other child, except that she gleamed like moonlight. There was a silver pallor covering her tender skin. She was beautiful. They looked around to see if somebody had lost the child or left it there, but there was nobody. There was no way to reach the island, and there was no trace of anybody trying to travel. And so after a few hours' search, they decided that the best thing would be to keep the child warm, and they brought her to their home. They were happy. Life had not blessed them with children, and they had found such a gift, such a blessing. This will be our daughter, they proclaimed. And they tended to her carefully. She did all that she was told. She did things well. She was taught many things. Yet every night before she went to bed, she would leave their hut. She would raise her pallid face to the moon, lift her arms up and shine more brightly than ever before. She would sway and dance to her mother in the sky. And when in playful mood, she would call, Niekir, Niekir, here I am, and then melt away to nothing, leaving but a merry echo of her laughter. Now she was here, now she was gone, the daughter of the moon. And so the old folk decided that her name would be Niekir, and this is what they called her. Time passed, as time of course does. And well, news reached the sun that on an island in the middle of a lake there lived a maid uncommon to the daughters of humans. The sun was intrigued, and so he sent his son Pavelke to seek her out, to find who this maiden was, to look for a bride. No sooner than the radiant young Pavelke gazed upon the silver maiden, he fell deeply in love with her. Or he thought it was love, but perhaps it was lust. Earth maiden, he would say to her, try these golden boots. And he handed her his beautiful golden fiery boots. Niekir blushed. Never before had she seen a young man before, and Pavelke was very handsome. And she did what she was asked. What she was told, she was taught that way. She put on his golden boots, and no sooner they had touched her legs, her feet, she cried out in pain. Oh, they're burning my feet, she said. How hot they are. You'll get used to them. smiled Pavelke, trying to reassure her. But she was not reassured. The pain burned her skin, burned her feet, her body, and before his eyes she melted away into a misty haze, and the golden boots, they lay empty upon the ground. Wrapped in quivering moonbeams, Nikia hid into the forest until night fell. Then as her mother, the moon rose upon the sky. Nikia followed her mother's light through the forest across the cold, snowy tundra. Dawn was beginning to break. Nikia came close to the shores of an ocean, led by her mother's silvery light. She saw a lone hut standing on ground that looked barren. There was nothing else around it. Nikia entered the hut to look for some shelter, but it was empty. There wasn't a single soul there, but she did notice that it was messy. It was very untidy, and she had been taught how to clean a house, and so at once she fetched a pail of sea water and began to wash and clean the hut. She rubbed and scrubbed. After many hours, she was content that her work is done, and the hut gleamed. Tired now, she turned herself into an old spindle. She hung herself upon the wall of the hut and fell into a deep and sweet sleep. Twilight cast its dark shadows upon the shore of the ocean. There were heavy footsteps. Nikia awoke with a start, and she saw a group of warriors enter. They were all clad in silver armor. They were handsome. She thought as she looked. She could feel her silvery skin becoming hot and pink as she blushed, and then she saw the eldest of the warrior brothers, Nainus. They were the brothers, the warriors, the Northern Lights, and Nainus, their leader. As soon as they entered the hut, their roaring and their laughter stopped, and they looked. "Our hut is so cleaned," exclaimed Nainus. "A good woman has visited us. I can feel her here. I can't see her, I do not know where she is hiding, but I can feel the gaze upon us." Nikia said nothing. She stood still as a spindle upon the wall of the hut. The hungry brothers sat down to supper. When they had finished eating, they began a mock battle amongst themselves inside the hut with a hole at the top, striking at one another with their sabres, with their swords. White sparks flew. There were crimson flashes dancing and soaring and sailing across the skies. They were tired. The sword fight exhausting, and they began to sing songs about old warriors of the sky, each flying off in turn through the whole of the hut until only Nainus remained. "Now, dear woman," he said, speaking to the eyes that he could feel upon his neck, "please show yourself. Should you be of respected years, you shall be a mother to us. Should you be of middle years, then you can be a sister to us. And should you be young, you shall be my bride." Nikia thought. She had a choice whether to show herself or not, and then she said, "Here I am. Judge for yourself." The voice behind him, and Ninus turned. He saw a beautiful, lovely figure standing in the dim light of an early silver dawn. He recognized the beautiful daughter of the moon. He had seen her before. He smiled. It was a gentle smile. "Will you be my wife, Nikia?" he asked. "Yes," she said, her voice like the ring of a silver bell. Just at that moment, The first flush of the pink dawn spread across the sky as the sun was pulled with his golden sleigh by the polar bear across the heavens. And the sun's head appeared, it could be seen across. Thank you to In Feather as always. See you next time. Thank you for joining me in the Story Apothecary. Nikia waited all day. She was excited. She was looking forward to seeing her husband-to-be return. The day seemed long. In the evening he came. And every evening after that, Ninus and his brothers flew back to their home on the shore upon the ocean. They would fight their sword battle, and then at sunrise, as the sun was pulled in his sledge by the polar bear, they would make their way again across the ocean, day after day, night after night. So it was. Nikia kept herself busy. She did as much as she could, but the nights were not enough. She wanted her betrothed, her beloved, with her during the day. She could see him in her mind's eye when she closed her eyes. She missed him. "Please stay with me just for one day," she whispered, as the night was midnight blue velvet. "That I cannot," said Ninus. "Across the ocean I must fly, I must engage in a battle of the skies. I cannot stay. Should I remain, in the morning the sun would pierce me right through with his shafts of fire. I would die. It is a thing that I cannot do as much as I wish to stay here with you. I must go. I must fly across the oceans, across the skies." Nikia nodded. She understood. But she felt sad nonetheless. The days seemed longer and longer, and her loneliness kept getting heavier. She pondered how she could keep her dear Ninus close to her just for one day. What could she do? She thought about him in her solitude, about how he was tall, like a rowan tree, like a mountain ash, his beautiful hair covering his shoulders. She thought about how her heart melted. Every time that she saw her lover, it melted like the snow under the rays of the sun. One day, she had a brilliant idea. She would make a quilt of reindeer hide, and she would embroider it with the stars and the Milky Way. She knew the constellations well. She knew the shapes. She knew the stories they told. She had lived among them. She was a master embroider. It mattered not that there was not a string in the hut. She would use her beams of silver, her hair. The stars and the Milky Way sat upon that reindeer quilt. When she had finished, it was magnificent. She was pleased with her work. She looked at it and she almost believed that the sky was indeed in the hut. She took it and she threw it so that it stayed upon the ceiling. She knew that the brothers, the northern lights, they would never look up when they were fighting, when they were eating. And so her plan was hatched. The brothers came back and had a feast, a dinner, and their fight with their sabres, and the lights danced upon the heavens. Night fell. They lay down to rest. Ninus slept soundly. She lay awake, smiling, listening to his breathing, his chest fall up and down. And as dawn approached, Ninus's eyes opened several times, feeling that it was time to depart, but each time he saw the Milky Way and the stars upon the hut, and he thought it still must be dark. And so he fell back asleep, thinking it was too early to rise. Nikia was happy to have these stolen hours with her beloved, but she needed to stretch, and so she crept outside quietly after some time, after the day had dawned. But she forgot to close the hut door. In an instant, Ninus opened his eyes and saw the bright line of the morning sun shining through the open door. He saw the polar bear pulling the sun's golden sledge throughout the heavens. At once he dashed from the hut, called his brothers after him, but it was too late. The sun saw him, and the sun sent down a shaft of light that pinned him to the ground. Ninus cried in pain. Nikia turned, realized what had happened, realized what she had done. She ran to her Ninus. She shielded him from the rays of the sun that pierced his skin. She shielded him with her own body, and as she did so, Ninus struggled to his feet. He flew off to safety up in the heavens. Nikia wept. The sun seized her by her braid. He looked at her with his fiery gaze, and it burned. He summoned his son Piavolke. Piavolke looked at her and beamed. The daughter of the moon looked upon the sun. She spoke strongly through her tears. "You may burn me into a cinder," she said, "but I will never marry Piavolke," wept the daughter of the moon as she stood her ground. In his fury, the sun flung Nikia into the arms of her mother. Mother Moon caught her tightly, embraced her daughter, held her child so tightly pressed against her breast that she stayed there, and she still holds her close to this day. Mother and daughter are united in a silver glow up into the heavens. And if you were to look closely at the moon, when she is full and round, you will see the shadows of her daughter Nikia's face upon her mother's breast. She's there, the daughter of the moon, watching the pale glimmer over the oceans, the battle of the northern light brothers dancing across the sky, watching and thinking about her beloved Ninus. She loved so dearly, and she lost so quickly, but she would have done the same as her. So it is, the moon's daughter and the northern lights shine across the heavens. But since that day, they have never been together. But throughout the winter cold months, they bless us with their light, and we are grateful for them. If you enjoy this podcast, then consider supporting me on Patreon. You can also share this podcast on social media and leave me a 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify if it brings you joy or healing. It's a beautiful story. I love the mythologies of the sky. They're so different in every culture, and yet there is something that joins them, that combines them. There is so much to say for the story, but I think I'll keep it brief. Let the story speak for itself. Sometimes that is the wisest thing. I can still see them up in the skies. This tale of loss of love, this tale of how the lights upon the sky shine down at us, a tale of saying no and standing your ground for what you believe in, a tale of motherly love, a tale of lust, a tale of protection and longing and light. I hope that indeed this story gives you light during the autumn and winter months. It rekindles you from the inside. Have a lovely autumn. Thanks for joining me in the Story Apothecary. See you next time. Goodbye for now. Thanks to In Feathers for this beautiful music, as always.